children, by now you have clearly understood that we are looking at those organizations which are influencing the working of the government. We've already seen the political parties, we've seen the pressure groups, we've seen the sectional groups, we've seen the public interest group. We have yet to see the movement groups. Again, an organization, a set of people who are looking for bringing about mobilization, movement in the working of the government. Well, there are two kind of movement groups that we have. One is the one which is issue specific plus limited time framework that they actually want to bring about that change. The second one could be general in nature and they have a very broader goal and therefore no specific time, because their issues are very big which would take more time, whereas here the issue is very specific, very narrow, very limited. So, they need to work in a particular time framework. We have seen the example of the movement groups in Nepal, wherein they had a specific aim that they had to restore democracy and within a limited framework. Therefore, they were the issue specific limited time framework movement. Then we have in India the Narmada Bachao Andolan, wherein the people fought against the building of Sardar Sarovar because lot of people would be displaced, and of course then the movement got very big and they started fighting for this against all the dams which had to be constructed. So, it could be a small movement which is in fact very limited in its approach, the issue could be very small and then it becomes very big with time. Lot of people actually join it and they all feel concerned and same about the issue. Therefore, the movement group is that which is trying to bring about a change in the people's working, in the people's problem by putting in all kind of pressures and other things on the government. Then we see that the general group, movement group, is the group of the environmentalist, the group of women participation. These are which will take lot of time for people to understand that they should be sensitive towards environment. So, to sensitize them, we will take lot of time to make people understand that a women's participation inside the home and outside the home is very essential, will take a lot of time in India. So, this is that kind of movement which is general in nature and which has a broad goal. Therefore, they cannot have specific limited time framework in mind. Therefore, we must understand when the issue is big, when lot of people have to be made to understand, we need lot of time. When the issue is small, specific, we can actually complete that in a very limited time. Well, you see that the National Alliance for People's Movement is a big organization in India which tries to bring about all these movements under one head, under a common umbrella, under a common federation. It is in fact the movement of all the movements in India, though it is called a loose federation because people do try and come under it, that is the movements, but still they are not kind of affiliated to it. It is not necessary for you to be a part of National Alliance for People's Movement. It's just a self-styled National Alliance for People's Movement wherein they are trying to give a common platform to all the movements, general and specific, limited time framework or one with a large time that they would need, long time that they would need to work under this particular head. Well, all the movements, all the groups, they try and influence people politics, general administration of the country in various ways. And this they have to do very, very tactfully. The first thing, as I said, the masses, the peoples are very, very important, the key element of democracy. So they need to have public support in order to become big, in order to become a true movement. Unless not many people recognize the movement, not unless people join this movement, they can become a true movement. Then they have to organize protest, they have to organize demonstrations, they have to come out in public to tell what their grievances are, to tell what they want. Then only they become a true movement. Then there are certain business group who can try and influence the working of the government in their favor, and their movement depends on that. They are rich people, you see, they could lobby, they could have they can spend lot of money in advertisements, and this is how they try and influence the working of the government and the minds of the public. Well, sometimes these movement groups are formed by political parties, especially the trade unions and the student union. Now these trade unions and student unions, you will see, slowly become or take the shape of the political party themselves, or they are affiliated to a political party and they work on the working of that particular party. They get influenced or actually are the mouthpiece of that political party. So these movements, wherever they are, however they are, big or small, in whichever part of the country, whether in the school or in the college or at the university level or in the offices or in the organizations, they are just influencing the working of the government, or the government is influencing these movements. It's a two-way process, so they are closely interrelated or correlated with each other. I shall continue with this in the next clipping. Well, in the last clipping we were looking at how the movement groups, they try and influence the working of the government. And here we can pick up the example of the Assam movement, when the people there were fighting against the entry of the foreigners in Assam, and they had joined in to become a movement which ultimately turned into Assam Gana Parishad, that is a political party. So a movement group gets transformed to a political party, and the example that we have just quoted is of Assam Gana Parishad, wherein the students actually who were protesting against the foreigners in the beginning were a normal movement group which became a political party. Well, if we talk of DMK or AIDMK in Tamil Nadu and look at the history of these parties, they were in fact just a social reform movement group in the 30s and 40s. Well, this clearly indicates that a movement might slowly shape up into a political party. So the movement groups that we have can turn into a political party, are more or less influenced by political groups and political alliances and parties, work either on behalf of them or the political parties influence them. Sometimes they please the political parties, sometimes the political parties please them, so they go hand in hand with each other. Therefore, the movement groups are in fact a very, very important part of the working of the government. They are not sitting in the government, but are definitely giving influence to the people who are in fact working in the government. So, if I am not wrong or I am not exaggerating when I can say that the movement groups are in fact the king movement groups, king making movement groups. They are the ones who make or mar a political party. Well, What do you think? Is it justified? Is it right? Is their influence healthy? Should they be allowed to influence? Again, if we just have to make a statement without going deep into it, we will say no, it's not healthy because they are promoting the interest of a particular section of a society. They are not looking into the interest of the general masses. They are for and meant for the section of a society. Well, some people also say that these groups are very, very lucky because they wield power without responsibility. That is, a political party gets power with all the responsibilities. That is, if you don't please the masses in the next election, you do not win their support. But these people, they are influencing those people who are sitting in power. They are not responsible, they are not answerable, they don't have to tell anything. Whatever they want, they get it done without sharing any responsibility, and they are also not accountable to the people. Well, the rich pressure groups, you see, they can sometimes hijack the public discussions for their narrow agenda, especially the business groups, the rich people, the corporate people. What can they do? They can actually maneuver, they can actually alter, bring about changes in the policies of the government by lobbying, by doing so many things which we are not even aware of, because they have lots of money and money makes the mare go. So, these are all the negative aspects of a movement, because the pressure group, as we saw, the big business pressure group can act against the interest of the country and in the interest of their community. So, therefore, those people who are against these groups clearly say that the pressure groups are just not meant for the unity of the country. They are meant for their own selves. They are just meant for bringing about prosperity to them. So, but every coin has two sides, and we shall see how they can be good also. And here we see that they definitely provide a balance to the working of democracy. You see, it deepens democracy. It sees to it that if the government gets influenced by a rich section of the society, if a government gets influenced by a very, very influential section of the society, then these pressure groups can act as a remedy against them. They can come out in protest, they can actually mobilize the public, they can have sectional people coming together, they can have diverse people coming together, all working towards against the government. So, they can act as a big remedy against those people who are rich and who act as a pressure group to the government. Well, now the sectional interest group, they can also act as a rough balance of power, and they are in fact the ones by which the government learns the policy of accommodation of conflicting interest. That is, the government will not be just listening to a particular section, will not be getting influenced by a particular section, because it has to look into the needs and interest of those who can come out in open, who can protest, who can rally, who can join in people to tell the government that what they are doing is not democratic. So, therefore, these people have to be accommodated, their interests have to be saved in order to have a balance of power, balance of shared responsibilities. Therefore, the sectional interest group, the pressure groups, the movements, all of these are very, very essential for the successful functioning of any democratic country in the world. So, remember children, it is different to achieve democracy, to actually have democracy in a country, but to sustain it, to see that it works democratically and nothing goes undemocratic in the country is very, very essential. And we must all be very thankful to the pressure groups, to the political parties, to the movement groups and all such sections which actually do a lot for the successful functioning of democracy in India as well as in other countries of the world. Thank you.